Hello, welcome to another video by Noble Engineering Services. This video will be one more kind of teeing you up for the actual training of the templates. What we wanted to do real quick was get you to a point where you feel comfortable with selling, staying above board, and integrating all of your stuff into your website, things like that, to make sure that when you do decide that you're going to offer our engineering services, you have a way to do that. So I'm going to start off by sharing my screen and just walking you through these sheets, which we will give you. The first sheet is how to onboard. This obviously is part of that process. After you're done with this, which is step one of the onboarding process that you see here, then you kind of get started with making sure and kind of proving to us that you have all the tools you need, the capabilities, you feel familiar with the app environment, and you can go and get us all the information we need. So the first step is these videos. Obviously, the step before that was our introduction video, our introduction call with you, where we went over kind of high level what each product we offer is. The next is this commitment, which is about a 3-hour commitment of going through our university and going through each of the details of the services that we provide, so that you, as the inspector, are gathering information for us, the engineer, in the way that we need it gathered. The EFE, Engineering Foundation Evaluation, is kind of the pinnacle of what you should be striving to get to be able to do. Those are what we would consider to be the most valuable. They are like a phase 2 of some of our first services. So if you do an EIR, for example, an engineering inspection review, they may want an EFE after we provide them information that suggests their foundation is failing or something like that. So an EFE requires a zip level tool. It is the longest template to run through. It asks the most information. It is going to ask the visual condition assessment of the home, along with the elevations of the home, floor plan scan. So what we want you to do is get to where you run an EFE for us. That's kind of the ultimate goal. There are some companies that we run just a HUD through, for example. They just want to use us for HUD for now, and they'll do EFE later. That's okay too, but the goal, again, is when you get through this time commitment, for you to be able to do all of our services, including some of our simpler services. So anyways, the very next thing you're going to do for us after finishing these videos is you're going to order a zip level. You're going to get your app on your phone ready, and you're going to run a test EFE. And when you do that, that will force you to use our app. It'll force you to use a template. It'll force you to use the zip level. It'll force you to go through and do a floor plan scan with us. And so that's what we'll do. The minute you're done, you'll email us saying, hey, I'm ready for my sample, and you will download our app. You will provide us, you just hit new project, you'll add the address information, the project elements, and then you'll complete the EFE at your own house. If you want to use a client's home, a friend's home, or somebody else that's experiencing foundation concern, and they're aware that, there may be issues, you may have to go back, that's fine. I mean, 90% of the time, a test EFE is a formal EFE. It's a good one. Very few times is it so confusing that it requires you to go back out in the field to improve on the consistency. Sometimes we, in fact, will tell you from the test that it wasn't good enough to give you good results. Here are the results, but we can't, we wouldn't want you to publish it to a client for X, Y, and Z reason. Maybe you didn't scan the living room, or you didn't give us points on the corners of the foundation or something that's serious, where we can still run it, but we can't actually publish it. You are going to do a full eval. So you'll walk the full house. You'll provide us with all of the visual information, which would be doors that are misaligned, windows that won't open, cracks in the tile, cracks in the brick, the game. And then you'll scan your home with the floor plan scanner, the Kubicasa floor plan scanner. The app that we'll download there, we'll show you how to use that in these videos. And then you will run the elevations on the home. So you'll run through our personal app. it will ask you for elevations in each area of the home, and then you will give us that information. You're going to publish that EFE to the test portal. It's not a test portal, actually, it's just our normal portal, but you're going to publish it, and then we will provide you with the results of that scan. It's a freebie. Use it for what you want, and then we'll give you feedback, and we'll tell you what you did good, what you did wrong, and then that way we feel that you're able to go out and actually give us the elevations that we need. Selling and evaluation is kind of the next step to integrating the platform. So once you're done testing and you feel like you can do it, we want you to sell one. So you're going to go out in however way you sell stuff and sell an evaluation. We're going to, in the next sheet, actually go through ways in which you might sell engineering services, because it may not be completely obvious to you. But we do have a kind of a table that we provide that shows what we think you can get for them. Geographic area plays a little part in it, but not that much. Engineering firms that are well established and that do this very, very frequently typically charge more money. I've seen evaluations, foundation evaluations like these go for up to $900, $1,000 for a normal home, and usually they don't go below $550 or so. Load-bearing wall and damage truss evaluations are certainly a little bit on the less expensive side, but $450 is a good price for those. Mobile home evaluations, I mean, those are typically teed up with a home inspection, and so it just depends on what you think you can get. A lot of times, in fact, I think we just double the cost of the home inspection to provide the certificate and the actual mobile home evaluation. So you can assess that. Those have good profitability. Inspection reviews usually don't, you need to factor in your field time to see if because inspection reviews are not going to require any field time, and so it just depends on what you think you can get for those. $200 is usually what we say to do a review of those is a good price to market to your clients. And then we do cost segregation and defect cost reports, which don't necessarily have to be engineering based, but just depends on how much time you want, how much time it's going to take in the field to do them, and what you think the market rate is for those. There are other competition out there, so you might Google what other competition is selling them for, so that you can kind of come in under that price. I will tell you, our fee, this listed fee here, is going to be well below what the market rate is for all of these services. In most cases by 2. So if you don't know where to start, take our price and double it. That's probably a good starting spot. We offer inside of this how to sell the partnership. We offer this sheet too. One of the other things that we offer is, if you go to our website, let me go to our website real quick, noble-pi.com/partners. What we offer at the very bottom of the page is, it's a little hard to find, but we show this to you many times, is this folder structure here. We have all kinds of things that are available for you to help market, and you can kind of dig through this stuff. We have contracts that we have you sign before. This is the non-compete and stuff, so that's kind of like an onboarding thing. We have some graphics. Actually, if you click it, you can go in here. The graphics will be graphics that kind of show you like a sample of what kind of things you're going to get. So these are kind of good to include on the website if you want to kind of make a page for engineering and throw a few images in there. Here's a repair plan. We also offer, right here, we also offer our logo and our font. So this is our engineering logo here. So you can download our logo and put it on there in partnership with. We're going to go over, keep staying above board here in a little bit, and how you would put our logo on your site. We have some things you can, these are the sheets that I'm going over right now, which is kind of our onboarding sheets, teach you how to onboard and to sell and to market. And then we have, that's a if you need a training certificate that says you got through our class, you can grab one of those. reports, but they say your logo here. So we always provide you with sample reports that have your own logo once we get it from you. And so you're going to want to put those on your website. We can provide any of these sample reports that you want. These are all of our services. You may not want to overload the client with all of those samples, but we certainly recommend an EFE sample and a HUD sample as a good starting point. And then we want you to kind of go over these samples, as I did in the last video, to make sure that you understand the report as well. A little off topic, but I, as the engineer, will someday talk to a client of yours because they'll give me a call, and that's fine. I usually try to three-way the call with you, the inspector, just depending on our relationship and depending on what you want. If you really don't want to be involved, we don't have to have you involved, and so I can talk to the client, certainly, as long as you trust the relationship there. But ultimately, the goal is that I would be happy to not also talk to the client. So if the client is just asking, well, what is the result of the engineering report, then you knowing and understanding that, for example, the sample report has an executive summary that can be read right there is very valuable and can save all of us some time sometimes. So, familiarizing yourself with this will let you, be the go-to source, the expert, if you will, to a certain extent. You can't call yourself an engineer, of course, but the expert of what this means. And you can convey this information to the client, to the agent, if you want to operate in that capacity. I don't always have to explain everything, especially on some of the simple stuff. But and then templates, we do provide. We're getting away from this. We provide templates for every single inspection software, not everyone, but the big 4 or 5. And honestly, one of the reasons that it's so difficult to one of the reasons we're going with an app now, with a universal app, is because it's just so difficult for us to make changes to a template and then push it out to every home inspection software that's available. Spectora makes it the easiest because at least we can push it out to multiple people. But if you think about it, if I change one thing in a template, pushing it out to our partners, getting them to swap out with the new one is really difficult. And that's the easiest. Spectora is the easiest. The other ones require you to upload the new template or to provide it as a download source. It's not as easy to send a template. You have compatibility issues. So long story short, the app will solve all of this. And that's the direction that we've gone. And the app is pretty incredible at getting it to us in the most uniform, consistent way. And I know it's another app to learn, but it is actually a pretty dang easy process once you get rocking in the app. Let's talk about how to sell the partnership. A lot of our partners start out with going, well, I don't sell engineering work very often because, I find it, when I do find it, which is very rare, then we kind of talk around it and they get a foundation company to come out and do a quote. And to be honest with you, that is the exact opposite of what we want to happen. It's not that we necessarily want you to use us in times when you don't need us, but the biggest asset that we are to you as a partner is providing a third party to your client. I don't get paid more money to devise a repair plan or to put more piers on the map. And so I'm not tied in any way to the transactional element of getting foundation work done. It's huge. It's actually one of the biggest reasons why you should be selling this to your client, at least the foundation stuff. You don't have to do it at the end either. In fact, the very first things you see on here are 4 different reasons why you can sell these before you even go out to the field. And we're successful at doing this quite often as home inspectors. And so you should be too. If you have your team ask about first visual cues, let's go down this list, visual cues. So if you ask the client, were there any indicators of foundation problems during the showing? They're probably going to tell you that there are, especially in areas where there are consistent foundation, bad soils, consistent foundation. Their neighbor's home has a foundation problem. If you start asking about foundation, oftentimes there's something that indicates foundation problems. They're going to tell you about their neighbor had it done, or that the seller's disclosure form had foundation listed there as something, or they don't trust the seller and the seller could be hiding stuff, or they know that there's foundation work that's done because of there's squares outside, concrete squares outside of the garage area. Okay, these are all visual cues that you can then say, well, we offer this service. I brought up trusting the seller. If you ask them, do they know about foundation issues? Sometimes they'll say either I don't trust the seller, or the seller's an investor and he doesn't know, or the seller, like open door, like there's a lot of investor type single family sales that go on where the information gets lost in translation. Like there is no foundation related information available. And sometimes you can even see there's foundation work that's been done that we have no documentation on. So these are all issues. The third one, was foundation work performed? And then obviously we have our website marketing materials, which make it, it makes it a deep dive. So if the client is an engineer themselves and they're very specific, or if they're very particular about the big five, foundation, roof, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, those things are great things to say, well, we do. If you had an in-house electrician and they were very specific about wanting all the electrical stuff in the home checked, you could say, oh, we have a master electrician that can come and do that. You might sell stuff. Same with engineering. If you say, hey, we have an engineer as a partner that can do these services and tell you, without a doubt, whether or not you have foundation problems, then you might try to sell it that way. During the inspection is obviously a great time to sell the home, the foundation stuff too. You can, a lot of times if you bring your zip level in the home and you shoot a few elevations, particularly if there's a foundation problem, by feeling it, by walking it, or seeing tons of visual clues, you got brick falling off the wall outside, or huge cracks that are an inch wide, or tile cracks in the floor, then, you should be bringing that up to the client and letting them know, hey, your elevations are off by about 2 inches. This is the mark for when foundation concern becomes real. Elevations that are, we say 2 inches, depending on the size of the home. But if you see 2 inches across 50 feet or so in any direction, or floor cracking or foundation cracks, these are all visual cues and should be discussed with the client, but also should be elevated potentially to an engineer taking a look. The third party assessment I brought up again already. It's like, again, we're not conflicted. Foundation companies, they're free. You go get a free foundation company to come out and tell you if they need work. And it's not a week that goes by that I don't look at a foundation's quote and tell the client that they don't need that work to be done, or that half of it needs to be done. We can localize, by the fact that we run tilt and deflection calculations and we slice the slab up, foundation up into multiple different profiles, we can localize the fix. And so we come up with, not only can sometimes we say, it's failing, but we can say it's failing only over here and in this corner. And so we only need a few piers and we're good to go. Foundation companies, they just run elevations. They've never run tilt and deflection. They very rarely, I don't say never, but they very rarely have an in-house engineer or someone to kind of alleviate that conflict of interest. And so they're tied to selling more piers. And so they land on the fear mongering tactic. Again, I don't want to throw every foundation company under the bus, but they do land on the fear mongering tactic. They land on the fact that this is a real estate transaction, and there's a reason why they come out and do elevation measurements and a full write-up for free. So just know what you're getting when you do that. I absolutely recommend that you get one to come by if we do also. And in fact, there's a video that will show you where we kind of tell the client they can pull our repair plan or costs or whatever out and give it to the repair company as a defense for why it should be cheaper, or why they need less piers, or why their conclusion differs. And Noble provides all kinds of support for that. If the client ever wants to call us and say, hey, why is this repair company seriously disagreeing with y'all? I've even had conversations with repair companies to try to kind of bridge the gap, so to speak, where the repair company wants to put in 25 peers, I want to put in 10. We kind of bridge the gap so that we can work together to get the right amount of peers for this client. Ultimately, the repair company is going to be responsible for fixing the problem and for warranting the work. And so sometimes the repair company disagrees with my approach, and they're, they won't do that unless we kind of come to an agreement. So we'll even rewrite the report for you to agree with the repair company if I actually do agree with what they're saying. So there's always that rumor, you put 2 engineers in a room, you get 3 answers. And so it's kind of the case with this work. There's analytical information that points us in the right direction. But sometimes I can be convinced that, a certain other approach may be possible as well. And so it just depends on where the client wants to land, where their budget is, where they are in the real estate transaction, how much money they're getting back from the seller, how cheap the home is, how good a deal they're getting when they go to buy the house. There's all these things that weigh in and factor into their ability to want to wait or to put money into the home to get foundation work done. And so I can help bridge that gap in any way that's necessary. Trip charge too. Yes. Obviously, if they do an EIR, this is always a big one. If they do an EIR, which is just me, an engineering inspection review, it's just me reviewing the report. Well, if I recommend that you go back out for elevations because the home is likely has impending foundation problems, then you as the inspector are probably going to charge them a trip charge to go back out there. And so they can save some money if you kind of know already that there's foundation problems and that they're going to have to be looked at. That is the how to sell. Let's talk real quick about staying above board. Staying above board is it's difficult. It's not difficult. It's just it's particular. That's the word I'm looking for. Every single state has very similar regulations, and I say they're particular because they want to protect the word engineer, engineering, etc., from anyone just using that word. And I understand it. I get it, and I support it. So the way that we have talked to many boards, and I'm in Texas. I've contacted the board many times. They make very certain that you need to not claim to be engaging in the practice of engineering and using these engineering terms. You are not an engineering company. You are not selling engineering services. You do not employ a registered engineer, and you are not an engineer, obviously. So some of these are obvious. Duh, I'm not an engineer, and I can call myself an engineer. Some of them are a little bit more difficult. And so what we kind of say is that you need to advertise your company as a partnership with Noble Engineering Services, and that word typically will keep us in the green. If you're trying to figure out how to skirt around doing that, then I would just say stop doing that. You have to say that Noble is a partner. There's not really a lot of rules around using our logo or on non-reports, like on advertising stuff. You don't necessarily have to have it a certain font and have certain things on certain pages, but the general rule is don't call yourself an engineering firm and don't pretend like you're an engineering firm. Otherwise, on the report, we format the report in the way that conforms with the board as best we understand and know and have communicated with the board. We put in partnership with, we put our logo. I have my name. You'll see our firm number, our number for insurance, and my PE seal number along with my seal signed. They're very specific on a lot of those things. And so we are above board there for you as we give you the report. What it does mean is that the client often wants to talk to the engineer and they want to get the firsthand knowledge. And so I have to put my contact information there. Just know that, like I said, I try to bring y'all into the mix when I can, if you want to be involved, so that you can kind of understand the prescribed remedy that I'm talking through. There are a lot of clients you have to hold their hand, and it's ironic that it usually is the engineers that want to know about every word on the report and want to go over it with you, in a monotonous way, and that's fair and fine. I in fact enjoy doing that, but I want to be completely upfront about me interacting with your client. It's just it's a non-starter for us. We don't pitch other services when I'm on the phone. I'm not going to try to sell anything else to your client. And if I do, then I'm going to involve you, because you're going to be the one going back out in the field to get other information from this client. That does happen on HUD sometimes, because especially if they fail. If they fail a HUD, the mobile home, due to like strapping, then like sometimes I'll say, well, take me a few photos, and then I've had other inspection companies say, well, I wanted to go out to take the photos myself to confirm. So I've overstepped there before. So it's just a relationship. We need to just know that my ultimate goal is to make it as easy on the client as I can, to bring you the partner into the conversation when you want to be involved. And ultimately, your logo is on the report, and yours will be there as the inspector. They will know the relationship because it's documented in that report. So I'm probably dragging on a little bit about this too long, but I just want to make sure that we stay not only above board with this conversation, but that you understand our relationship, us with the partner. We don't, as far as insurance goes, what we say and what has worked for most of our partners, almost all, is that we're not asking you to collect any information that you wouldn't as a home inspector. We do have partners that are foundation companies and those that are accounting and stuff. But specifically, this comes up with insurance for home inspection work because sometimes a home inspection company will say, well, I'm gathering the data for an engineering report, and therefore I need other insurance. And that may be the case with your own home inspection insurance provider. I can't be an expert in all of the different providers and what they are requiring from you. They are specific. I know a lot of insurance companies are very particular about what you do, but at the end of the day, you are gathering visual condition information, things you do as a home inspector. A lot of home inspectors already gather elevation measurements, maybe not every single one that we would have you gather, but you're taking measurements throughout the home on a zip level. It's a very common device, and a lot of inspectors carry zip levels even if they're not doing work for engineers. And then you scan a floor plan. That's certainly a service that you provide as a home inspector. So check your respective insurance company. Word of warning to you, just because I want to make sure that that you're good. But most companies don't do anything outside of what they normally would do, and so they're not really doing anything different, so to speak. And we do not indemnify. You signed the agreement already, I believe, and so you would see in there that you're responsible for your work. We're responsible for our work. We base our conclusions on your work. That's the reality. And so no risk, no reward. If you'll get paid, obviously, a fee for providing a service and taking on a risk, as do we, as you do in your home inspection world, and as you do as a mold inspector, a termite inspector. You have to weigh if you're getting enough fee to justify the risk. We've never been sued before. Knock on wood. We don't intend to be sued. We give refunds if we can, and we work through situations that require me to get involved with claims that we've made a mistake or something. But it is very rare, very, very rare that this happens. And typically it's someone that's upset because they think we were too aggressive with our conclusion, or not aggressive enough, or the cost was too high that we said. Like when you put a buyer and a seller in the same arena looking at a single report, sometimes it can get contentious. And I don't back down from those kinds of interactions. I love actually trying to bridge the gap between a buyer and a seller. Even when another engineer is involved, no problem. Two people can have two opinions, and they can both be right about that opinion. There is a level of call it artistic freedom. What would you call it? It's professional freedom from looking at the results and then deriving the conclusion and the actual repair plan, or specifically saying what I need to say based on the results that I see. It's not always just super analytical, numbers based. There is a bit of an artwork to doing foundation work, and it becomes clear when you have a few engineers look at the same problem and they may come up with different solution. My solution, I would say, is a little less on the alarmist side. I like to get more monitoring information out of the way. I like to have more points on a graph to make a decision. I like the theme of watch it, look at it, collect the data over a few years, and then I can make a decision. And so that leads to other types of conclusions that I draw. Mine are less, mine are more localized solutions, more with the thought of the budget of the client in place, and certainly not with how can I, the engineer, remove all liability whatsoever from this house being a problem in the future. I mean, there is a concrete fix to every foundation problem. And if I want you to put in 75 piers to fix the problem on a small home, that would definitely mean that it will never move again. But that's not a viable, when you have dollars, opportunity costs is the right word. When you have opportunity costs that weighs in, then it becomes a bit of a question. It has to become more of a question of, is this the best use of my dollars? Where should I put the first piers, and where should I, if this is going to be a two-phased approach or a wait and see approach, how do I go about doing that effectively? And that to me, it's a harder explanation for the client. It doesn't always work well with the buy and sell and damages and, that approach. So we do explain. It's more of a timeline explanation sometimes in our report. We'll do an optional repair plan, which is something that is like, we don't intend you to do now, but we think that you may want to do this and plan for this in the future. So things like that. But anyways, this is that video. Appreciate it and look forward to the next video. Thanks.